Hey there, my name is Cassie Torresias, and 8 years ago, I launched my own online graphic design studio and booked a one-way ticket to travel the world in pursuit of my own freedom-filled life. I now own a multi-million-dollar online business, The Bucket List Bombshells, teaching other women how to do the same, alongside my best friend, co-founder, and podcast co-host, Paige Brunton. Around here, we believe that your crazy dreams aren't crazy, and that it's time for you to start creating the life and career that you dream about too. Whether you want to travel and work remotely, or simply just want to be your own boss, it's possible to live out your passion and purpose without just scraping by. We know that this path isn't always easy to navigate though, so we're here to help you. From making a career change, starting and growing your own business, balancing life and business, and most importantly, pursuing your own freedom-filled life. Get ready for real, relatable stories and advice on your journey towards something more. We serve it up BFF style, so pour yourself that third cup of coffee and let's dive in. Welcome to the Freedom-Filled Life Podcast.
Hey everyone, Shay here. I am excited to share today's episode with you because I got the opportunity to sit down with Paige Brunton, a SquareSpace website design expert, course creator, and business mentor. Right now, Paige is on a mission to empower women to build a profitable website design business. If you've been thinking about starting a website design business but weren't sure what the next steps were to take, or if you're wondering how you can grow your current design business to 10K months, then this episode is for you. Paige shares so many incredible insights and advice from her journey from beginner to expert website designer. So let's dive into today's episode. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Freedom Filled Life podcast. I am your host, Shay, and I am so excited to be sitting down with Paige Brunton today, a close friend and a course creator, just like myself as well. So we're going to be chatting all things business with Paige. Her and I met in Bali, and this was at the beginning, I think early stages of us getting into the business. We were service-based business providers, and now we've transitioned into courses. And I still remember us vividly sitting at one of our favorite restaurants called Shady Shack, eating our avo and toast and just chatting business and connecting on such an amazing level. So we've stayed friends for many years, and we're actually in a mastermind together, and really excited to be connecting more with you, Paige. And I just admire your work and your business so much. I think you have amazing business strategies, and I'm really excited to chat with you today. I know that recently you were an attendee and a workshop host of our Profit and Thrive conference, and people just raved about the strategies that you had to share there. So wanted to bring you in here so we could share that knowledge with our listeners here on the podcast. So this episode is going to be really excited because this is for those aspiring or newbie website designers in our community. And we're really going to talk about how Paige was a self-taught website designer and really grew her business up to 10K months. So she's going to be really diving into that full story around that for us and how you can do that too. So I want to dive just like right into it. And I want to hear from you, Paige. What is your story? Can you tell us a bit about who you are and the business and maybe the products that you offer?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I am absolutely thrilled to be here. It's been a long time running like a parallel business to you two. I feel like we have a lot of overlap in our students and our mission and everything. So I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me. So my story is a little interesting. So I finished up a degree in something completely unrelated. I have a degree in recreation and leisure. So I literally studied play for 6 years. I have a master's in that.
Love it.
I had a great time at university. But once I finished, I moved over to Germany to be with my then boyfriend, now husband. And once I got to Germany, I realized I had genuinely no job options. And I had a big student debt to pay off. I had $45,000 in student debt. And I was like, I need to find a way to make money in a country where I don't speak the language. If I was going to learn the language, it's going to take me a full year to get fluent enough to work in what I had studied. I was like, I don't have that luxury. I need to start paying this debt off now. So that's when I was looking at hey, what could I possibly do on the internet? And this is a little bit before. I feel like now it's fairly common to do things online, remote jobs and everything. But at the time, a couple of years ago, was not the case. And so I figured like I'd built a travel blog before just because I love to travel. And so I had taught myself how to build a website. I have, again, no degree in this, no background in anything like websites or marketing or IT or anything. But I just figured this is my best bet. And so I spent a lot of time Googling and trying strategies and failing and picking myself back up and crying in my living room and like, how am I going to do this? And then eventually figured out like, okay, I actually found a way to like find clients, really make websites that they enjoy, give a like service that they love, and really run like a well-oiled business machine. But again, it did take a good amount of time until I figured that out. So I went on and was a web designer for quite a while. And then eventually, when I fully booked out my business, that's when I had to figure out like what exactly, like I was hitting take 10 months, but then I was like, but I mean, I could only raise my prices so high. And even still, like I keep getting inquiries. And that's when I started figuring like, maybe I could teach courses and maybe I could like teach people, here's how to build your own. I was using SquareSpace website that looks like a designer built it, but you actually did it yourself, like teaching people how to basically be their own designer. And then from there, all those students were asking like, oh, wait, how do I work with clients? How do I find clients? How do I do contracts and find my process and pricing and all these things? And so that's when I also created a business course. So my two courses are Square Secrets, which teaches people how to build really amazing Squarespace websites that look nothing like the template. And then Square Secrets Business, which teaches like, if you want to build a web design business, here's like the back end of how to like set up, find clients, do the legal and taxes, do all of the back end of running a web design business.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I know that you mentioned parallel, and I feel like for those of you students, I know you're out there listening. I'm sure that you have taken both of our courses, and I think that's so fun because sometimes I'm in our communities and they're saying, "Oh yeah, I'm in Paige's course." So I'm like, "Yeah, get it, girl!" Like Squarespace is where it's at. So kind of talking about Squarespace, let's take it back to you and I started like almost a decade ago. Like you had said, working remote was like quite different. Website design was sort of this unknown thing. And so you could specialize in it pretty easily just by using a template. Do you still think that's the case for the industry as it's become more of a saturated market and sort of people are more aware and understand DIY website design?
Yep. So this is interesting. People always say this like saturated market thing to me. So before people go to take my course, I like always get messages like Instagram DMs. They're like, but are there too many website designers? And I'm like, okay, valid question. But like just as I forget the statistic, it's like almost half of American small businesses still don't have a website. And it's like, well, there are a ton of website designers. There's also a ton of businesses that still don't have websites. And even if they do, let's be real, some of them are god awful. And so there's a lot, believe me, like every time I have a new round of students come in, there are always people booking themselves out with clients like within a matter of weeks or months. And so it just always proves to me like, nope, still have not actually hit like saturated market point where we don't need more website designers. But yeah, it's definitely a thing. So like back in the day, for sure, it was like you needed like coding and you needed to use these like really complicated website builders. Like WordPress is really the only good option. And so there has been definitely a rise in like these like more DIY friendly website builders. But regardless of that, I find so many clients, it's like they're running a business, they're setting something up. They're like, I have no interest. Like, yeah, there's people who will go do it themselves. There's no question about that, but that's fine. That's just not your client. There are also a ton of other people who are just like, I want something good. I want something that looks amazing. Like, I know I don't really have design skills and like, I don't really know how to make this website actually like work to like book out my business. And there's, while the builders might be getting easier, the strategy behind websites is something which people don't realize how vitally important that is. Like when I go into websites and it's just like, there's so many things wrong with them. And it's just like, you need to think through as the website designer, you need to think through like, okay, where is this person supposed to be going on this website? What do I want them to do on this website? How do I make that as easy as possible for them to do? Like there is a huge difference when you go to purchase something online or book a service online between something where like you have to send them a contact form versus like you can quickly book and schedule like on the system or whatever. So there's definitely a lot of things that we can do as website designers to remove like roadblocks in the website to make it as easy as possible for people to do the thing we want them to do. So it's probably like book you, buy from you, whatever it is. And so when you have a website designer build your website, they're thinking through all those things. They're also thinking through like all the SEO and everything. And that's just like, some people will want to learn how to do that themselves. A lot of business owners are like, screw this, just get me a website designer. They can just do it for me.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I love that you touched on that, because I feel like that's one of the main things that hold people back. When I see them first starting out in service-based world, they really just focus on the say the task, or like the website itself, the end result. And they're like, oh, well, everyone is doing that. Or why would someone want me? It's because they don't want to do it. B, there's like you said, there's tons of people that don't have websites, or if you're in other services, don't want to do that or have that skill. But I love that you touched on strategy, because I really think that that's like a key differentiating factor for what I see in my students when they're able to say, I have strategy. I can, I'm setting up your website to convert, get leads. You're using these terminologies. Those are things that are return on investments for the person buying your service. And so thank you so much for going into that, because I know that's one of the saturated question, and the kind of that like fear of getting into the market is something I see a lot in our student communities. So going back to sort of when you were starting your own business, what sort of motivated you to do that? And sort of I just touched on fear, like what gave you the confidence and say courage to go after that career path?
Literally having no other option. That was like, believe me, the fear was there. Like, again, as I said, like my husband came home to me crying in the living room on a few occasions in the first couple of weeks. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to get clients. Can I even be a website designer? Like, I have genuinely no background or experience in this, really. So believe me, like the fear was there. And I think I was just talking to one of my students about this recently. I think one of the greatest gifts that I had was that I had no other option. Like I mean, other than breaking up with my boyfriend and going home, which didn't feel like an option to me. And so in my mind, I was like, I have to make this work. And so every time I would like try something or try a way to find a client or whatever it was, like try to set something up in the business and it wasn't working, I just had to keep going. And I feel like I actually am, believe me, at the time I was frustrated. But looking back, I was like, that was such a gift to myself. And I knew that like if I was back home in Canada or something, and I could just go get a job around the corner, like I do wonder, would I have actually like, not would I have started it? I definitely would have started it, but I think it just would have taken me longer to grow it, because I would have been like, oh, I have these backup options, or like, oh, I'll get a side hustle while I'm like figuring this out or whatever. But it's like, I just spent 24/7 all day, every day trying to figure out how to make this thing work. And that's why I'm thrilled now. Like I help my students do it. And like, it took me a while to set this business up, but like they can do it so much faster. Cause like, all right, you do this. And like, this is how it works. Here's all your different like marketing options or finding client options. And like, here's how to customize your like processes and pricing and everything, to make it really work for you. And when you're just trying to figure that out by yourself, like that's rough.
Yes. No, I love that you always give great roadmaps. Like, again, when I was attending and co-hosting that Profit and Thrive conference, and your workshop there, your teaching style is so great. I have a very similar style, so maybe that's why I like it so much, but it's always like, here's what not to do. Here's what to do. Here's the roadmap. You can do it. Like, and I just think you have such a great teaching style too. So like, I think experience.
Thank you. I feel like that's the key thing that people always say, that they're like, you made me feel like I could do it. I feel like, I don't know why, but people are like, oh, okay, she seems like me. Like, I feel like if she can do it, like I can figure it out and everything. And I mean, I feel like that. I always like to say that, like, I do not have a degree in this. I don't have a background in this. Like, I studied something completely different. And so I feel like that's super important to tell people, because so many people think like, oh, I would have had to go to school. So I can tell you, both my brothers, they studied computer science. And so people feel like that's like, oh, I need a degree, especially women. I find we're like very like, oh, I need every degree and certification before I'm legitimate enough to do this thing. Brothers who science of like databases, and they're working on, I don't know, huge corporate clients and that sort of thing. And so the people who even study this, I feel like, again, coming back to like women being like, oh, I need to have a degree in that first. It's like the people who actually did study computer science, they're literally not building these websites. So like someone else needs to go be a website designer who are super, because those people, they just, I don't know, they're actually doing the coding, they're doing the data and the back end and all this crazy stuff. Whereas like the average small business owner, they just need someone who cares about them and their business, who really has an interest in them, and who knows how to, knows the strategy, knows the SEO, knows how to build a good looking website. That's what they really need.
Yes, I love that. And you kind of touched on it, where like this sort of, I want to bring up comparison. I feel like I hear most website designers that I've been speaking with in our communities, they are very much comparing themselves. And you kind of brought this up with women feeling like we needed to know everything. Yep. And, social media, and, there's just so much on social media to compare to. How did you overcome either comparison or imposter syndrome?
Yep. I have a very specific strategy. So I would definitely see these website designers, whereas like these, like I could never compete with that. Like they are just so far beyond my like capabilities and everything. And over time I did improve and I did get to the point that they were at. But the one thing I had to remind myself of, but I knew logically, I was like, Kate, this person has been at it for like 5 years longer than me. And so I actually Googled this website called Wayback Machine, and you can put in someone's website and you can see their website, what it was 5 years ago. And that would make me feel so much better, because I was like, oh, theirs look like mine did when they started. Like it'll come with time. And like, I just had to remind myself that like, okay, maybe I'm not like at that point yet, but also they did start at the same place that I did, and made me definitely feel better.
Okay, that's so funny. I know the Wayback Time Machine, because we've used it to do like comparisons of like what our site used to look like, just for like fun and stuff.
Yeah.
So that is such a fun site. I would always like search other people's sites in there.
Yeah, exactly. You can go see my awful first website.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing your experience around that, and sort of getting back to like building your business and going from that, starting out and figuring it out on your own. And then, like you had mentioned before, growing it to a 10K month. What was the turning point or the strategy that you used to get to that 10K month as a website designer?
Yeah. So let me start with what I was doing at the very beginning. So one of the first things I did was, there was this web design agency that found me online, and they're like, oh, sweet, we need like website designers. So they brought me on as one of their website designers. Problem was, I was making a fraction of like what the company was paying. The company was paying the agency. And so I didn't love that. And I knew I needed to find like another way to get my own clients. And so I was just researching like every possible way people get clients on the internet. Like everything that Google would tell me, I would try that thing. Now, granted, I didn't get a lot of traction in those things, because I tried something once, maybe did it badly, and then tried the next thing. But eventually I did determine, I was like, hey, I found a marketing strategy which I actually liked. And I feel like this is so vital and so important, because if you hate or feel awkward or don't enjoy your marketing strategy, it's going to be a struggle to get yourself to do it. And the key with marketing strategy is just doing one thing well consistently. When I have all these like web designer friends, they don't do 10 strategies. They do 1 or 2 marketing strategies really well, and they just go with that. And so the thing which I chose, and I just want to clarify before I even say it, you do not need to do this marketing strategy if you don't want to do it. But I blogged. I loved creating content. I found it fun and joyful. I could do it in my bed in like 2 a.m. if I wanted to. It was just really easy and chill for me. And I really enjoyed just like, I also like the idea that I knew when I started my business, I didn't have enough money to go like hire all these professionals. So I was like, I'm also helping people on the internet who just like need some assistance with their website. And then also coincidentally, people who read this, they're like, maybe they thought they were going to build their website themselves, or maybe they were researching different platforms, and then they read the blog post and they're like, oh, she's super helpful, maybe I'll just hire her. And so like that actually, so I started blogging twice a week, and I just stuck with it. And it was slow going. Blogging is not a fast strategy. There's definitely way faster marketing strategies that you can choose, but I chose that one also because it was online and I was in Germany at the time. I didn't have the luxury of like hitting up your local coffee shop or like conference or something and like chatting with people that way. So I chose to blog. I slowly but surely would see week after week, my traffic would increase. And I was like, okay, it's working. And everyone had said like, stay consistent. And I was like, all right, I decided I'm going all in on this thing. It's going to be my marketing strategy. So twice a week blogging, slowly but surely, traffic started increasing. Traffic then in all my blog posts, I would make mention of like, hey, by the way, like you can work with me. Here's my service, like go over to my services page and see like how we could work together if you want like a really great website too. And then I started noticing people were going over to my services page, and people were going to the inquiry form, that I was actually booking inquiry calls. And eventually I booked the first client through that. And I swear, like, it did hit a tipping point. I feel like with blogging specifically, it's this thing where like you get this like slow growth and it's like a slow build, and then it just like takes off. And so at the point where it took off, that was just like my page views were going crazy. I was getting like 60,000 page views a month. And so then that's when, I mean, not even, I was getting clients way before 6,000 page views a month, I should clarify. But yeah, it was just like suddenly I was getting a literal inquiry a day into my inbox, and I was one person. And I thought about like being a web design agency because that was like the most common thing at the time. And I was like, I'm not so into that. So what I did over that time, as I was getting more inquiries, getting more bookings, booking out months in advance, also then raising my prices, doubling them again. That's how I was able to get to the 10K month. So I was doing like I would do a 2-week website project. So I would do with one client for 2 weeks specifically. And then my pricing was starting at like $5,000. Sometimes website projects, if they were adding on like branding or e-commerce or something, it'd be like 7,000, even up to like $9,000. And I could do 2 of those in a month if I want to take vacation. Obviously, I was leaving for a little while and everything. So, but on average, it was averaging like 10K months. And so that is how that happened.
Wow. I didn't even know that story. So that was
Yeah.
I was on the seat of my chair on the edge of my seat listening to that story. I was like, oh yeah. And I love that. And is there, and you said that this is the strategy that you use. Are there any sort of tips that you have or other strategies that you go into to help people achieve those same results?
Yep, totally. So with blogging specifically, or with just any marketing strategy?
I was just curious because I know that you had mentioned that you didn't have to use blogging. So I wanted to know if you also talk about, maybe this is a great time to talk about, what you teach inside of your courses. I know you have Square Secrets Business, and you give the exact business strategy blueprint to be a website design business. Maybe you can talk to your courses and like talk about what else you teach outside of the blogging strategy.
So Shay was very kind to be a guest expert inside of my Square Secrets business course. So I literally, when it came to building Square Secrets business, I was like, okay, I have blogged to get clients, but this is not the only way to get clients. And I don't want to just prescribe like, this is the only way that you can do it. And I also didn't want to talk about strategies, which I was like, I haven't actually done that. Like Instagram is not actually my jam. So I was like, I don't want to go talk about a marketing strategy, which I haven't done or I'm not good at. And so I was like, what can I do about this? So I just reached out to all my web designer friends who were also like the biggest names in the industry who were fully booked. And I was like, hey, tell me your favorite marketing strategy. And we're going to go through, they shared with me like, this is my favorite marketing strategy. This is exactly what I do. This is the mistakes I made along the way, the like things I've done to improve it over time. Here's like the first 3 steps for getting started and everything. And so the guest experts inside the course, there's 8 of them. They cover a wide range of strategies. So we're talking like social media, in-person networking, relationships and referrals, pitching, blogging, different types of content creation, guest experting in people's like podcasts or groups and that sort of thing. So there's like a whole range of things that you could choose to do. I actually have a quiz, which helps people figure this out for themselves of like which marketing strategy fits my personality type. Because I feel like, again, coming back to like, that is the key. If you don't like the marketing strategy you're doing, it is going to be a struggle and a half to make yourself do it. So if you go to pbcourses.com/quiz, there's a quiz there, answer a few questions, and it will shoot out like, this is the marketing strategy that you're actually going to enjoy doing and which you're not going to hate, and therefore could actually do consistently and have success with. So yeah, that's pbcourses.com/quiz if that is helpful for anyone.
Yes, I love that because blogging definitely was not my jam. And I know that you have lots of really juicy strategies in there, and I am in there sharing some of my insights as well. And I know for those of you who have followed along with me and the podcast and all of that, my strategies are definitely more based on cold emailing and referral based strategies and pitching your like almost like you doing the outreach as well. And I know that that's not always the best fit for everybody too. So I love that you have.
But those strategies are fast. So there's like okay, here's the fast ones, here's the slow ones. So
exactly.
Like, the good thing about the fast ones is you get clients right away. But the bad thing about it is that like, okay, you have to go do that again. After you get the client, then you have to go do that same like thing again. With the long ones, it's like, it's going to take you a lot longer to get clients, but it's the type of thing which like literally blog posts from years ago would get me new clients. And so that is like, there's pros and cons to whichever you choose.
Yeah, and I love that you have a quiz to kind of find that out, because I think it's also, I noticed my students gravitate to more um, different strategies depending on like what they want to do. So for example, a lot of my strategies are, being like going out and getting it. So like there's a lot of like there can be rejection in that.
Yes.
Things move fast. You kind of have to be, I did a lot of customization in the things that I was offering. I did a lot of upfront work to like hunt and find. But then once I got that base of referrals, very similarly to your base of getting blogging, eventually I feel like any of the strategies that they're learning in your course, they're almost like the foundation, and they do eventually kind of start working on their own. So I would get referrals without even asking, or I would have reached out to someone and then like not hear from them. And then 6 months later, they'd be in my inbox and I'd be like, whoa, okay. Like that was 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And
we actually, oh, sorry.
Oh,
No, we actually did a study. We interviewed over 770 website designers, and we asked them things like, how much are you making? What are your client finding strategies and everything? And biggest one was referrals. And I hear like anytime a new person hears like, oh, I get my clients through referrals, people are always like, well, that must be nice. But like you need a client to refer you in the first place. But anyway, so that study is very interesting. If you go to pbcourses.com/study, you can find that. And it gives all the details on like all the things that we learned when we interviewed these 770 designers about like what's working for them, what they're charging, how they're getting clients, how long it took them to book themselves, all those things. It was something I always really wanted to know and was super curious to find out. And so eventually we were just like, we just reached out to a ton of website designers. We're like, answer this and let us know. So that was really interesting.
Wow, very cool. I will make sure to include those links as well with the episode, because I am going to go take the personality quiz after this because I'm kind of curious.
Yeah.
And that study sounds really interesting. Thank you for sharing those resources with us. So as you were building your, their strategies and your business, what were some of the challenges that you faced during that growth, and how did you overcome them?
There was a few. I think if I had to think of the two biggest challenges, it's probably like mindset things, and then also like the practicality of what do you do when you literally have an inquiry a day coming at you. So in terms of mindset, like I was like, that was my biggest problem, was my brain at the very beginning was just like, you're not going to get a client, who are you to do this, like no one's going to pay you that amount of money. And I was just so annoyed with my own brain. I was like, can you shut up? Like, you're so annoying. Just get out of my head. And so I read a ton of mindset books on things like You Are a Badass and The Miracle Morning, and started doing those things to really like stop my brain from sabotaging myself. So if anyone else is having that problem, highly recommend some of those books and implementing their strategies. And basically like every time I would notice when a negative thought came into my head, like, you're not going to get an inquiry this week, or like, you're not going to get another client after this one or something, then I would replace that with like, okay, actually, I like decide to replace that thought with this thought instead. So mindset was definitely a huge challenge for me at the very beginning. That was like my initial challenge. Then the challenge became, what do you do once you have an inquiry a day? Like, raise your price? Yes, totally. But also then at some point, like even still, then you're still like at capacity. So like that could be like waiting lists, that could be like booking out months in advance. And that could also mean like finding a more scalable way to offer whatever you want to offer. So the different options in terms of website design, most common is like building a web design agency, super common. So you hire, I see in my student community all the time, people are like, hey, booked myself, like, can I hire in a junior designer or something? So one thing is becoming like website agency. Another one is selling website templates, super popular. And then another one is creating courses or some sort of education. Those are like the most common scaling options when it comes to like website design specifically.
Very interesting. I also love the book You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. So good. So good.
Yep.
Yeah.
So good.
Thank you.
Also funny. Like you just read it and you're laughing the whole time.
Yes, she's so good. I think she has some other books too, but that one, You Are a Badass, always sticks out for me.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that journey with us. And for someone who's interested in starting a website design business, and they're ready to go in, they're ready to start it, what advice do you give them in terms of, some of the first steps to take towards building that business?
First steps. Okay. First step is to get good at the actual skill. I feel like this isn't anything. So like you do need, anyone, I truly believe this, anyone can decide to be a website designer. you do actually need to know how to do the thing fairly well in order to like be successful, book out clients, that sort of thing. So I think really educating yourself on website design, however you choose to do that. There are courses, there's things like my Square Secrets course. Before when I did it, there no courses existed. So it was just a lot of Googling, a lot of blog posts, a lot of like testing stuff. I even read some books on like brand design and that sort of thing, which I felt like, oh, maybe that'll help me with website design. A lot of YouTube videos, those sorts of things. So however you want to educate yourself on the key things that you want to educate yourself are one, like the tech platform that you're actually using. SEO, it is important that, so how do I say this? SEO when it comes to being a website designer is like, there is long-term SEO strategies, and then there's like the initial stuff you just need to do to set up the website. So long-term SEO is honestly like another job. Like there's companies which just do like, we will do your SEO for you like over months and years. And that's tends to involve like link building and content creation. That's not so much the website designer's job, but the website designer's job is like, you need to be naming your images correctly. You need to be getting the like keywords in the right places. You need to be making sure this website like is loading quickly and all these things. Like that is your job when you set up the website. And so those are the things that you need to learn as an aspiring website designer in terms of SEO. So again, content creation, link building, not so much your thing, because that tends to be like another literal type of business or service provider. And then finally, like website strategy. I feel like it's called like user design, or what is it? User interface, user experience or something. I was like, that's a genuinely most useless term ever because no one understands what that even means.
Or UX. Everyone
UI, UX.
Yes. Yeah. I think
And so
it's very techy.
what I like to say instead of UI, UX is like, the strategy of making the website be easy for people to use, easy for people to find the thing that they need to find, making sure that you've built the website in the first place with like, you have an idea of where you want this customer to go through this website, kind of like building out that roadmap in your mind or literally on a piece of paper. So you can like be strategic about how you're doing like calls to action through the website. And just, again, trying to remove like barriers, trying to make it like, so conversions are as easy as possible on the website. So those are the things you would want to learn. So again, that's like the actual tech platform that you want to use, a little bit of SEO for like the basic setup stuff, and then the actual like best practices and like strategy of website design. And so again, you could take a course, you could go find that information on the internet, whatever you tickles your fancy, basically.
Thank you for that detailed insight. I love a good like step-by-step plan. And that's what you teach inside of Square Secrets business, right?
Square Secrets. Square Secrets is all about the like website building stuff. So this is like the website strategy, the SEO, and the Squarespace specific stuff. And then Square Secrets business is different. I made them like there's no overlap between the two courses, specifically because most people who take the first take the second. And so Square Secrets business is purely about, this is how you build the business. Like if you already have the website building skills, amazing, just go take Square Secrets business. If you're like, I'm not so sure on the website building stuff, then like getting a lot of people buy the bundle of both courses. So Square Secrets business is like, this is how you set up a web design business in terms of like finding clients, managing contracts, figuring out your process, keeping like clients on schedule so your projects don't drag on for a zillion years, and legal and taxes. That's all in the business course. It's kind of similar to you guys. So like the Square Secrets is like the skills of like the actual thing you're going to do. The business course is like, here's how to run the business, find clients, that sort of thing.
Love that. Love that. I know. I think I love that structure. You know, I like you provide the skills and then you also provide how to build and run a business. And for you specifically, it's then that website design for those website designers. And so I love that structure. As you had mentioned, it's very similar to the structure that we have. If you could pick just one thing, what do you think has contributed the most to your business growth and success? Like mindsets, programs, actions, investments?
Great question. It's a great question. So I think, okay, a couple things. One, that having no other option. I think that really forced me to like keep going when maybe I didn't want to. The other thing in terms of like the actual growth of the business, it was 100% like consistency and building an email list. So like picking a marketing strategy, sticking with that like every single week in and out. Also having chosen a marketing strategy which is scalable. I think that's key because like there's certain marketing strategies which are fantastic for service-based businesses, like in-person networking or like speaking or whatever. And that's really great. But that doesn't scale as well as something like some sort of digital marketing, if you want to create content or be a guest expert or run ads or all those types of things, like that's really scalable marketing, which can lead you to a scalable like business. So I think honestly, yeah, like my business didn't have any like sexy like rockets of like, I don't know, traffic or something. Like it was always just like just building month after month and like very unsexy work behind the scenes, which
Mm.
over time led to a highly successful business. But yeah, it wasn't, I know you guys have done things like PR and I know you're like, that just like leads to this like massive spike of stuff. I was like, I've actually never done that. And so mine was just like a slow growth thing. It was very like good, reliable. I liked it. So yeah, mine was like consistent content creation was, and then building the email
Mm.
list from that was the absolute best thing I've ever done.
I love that. I really feel like this year, I've been talking about trends and what's happening,
Mm,
after like the pandemic and sort of like the business world has shifted, especially online. And I feel like one
yep.
of the main pieces of advice or trendy marketing, it's not even trendy marketing. It's
Hmm.
literally consistency. That's been like the
Yep.
number one piece of either advice or recommendation or things that have been
Mm,
working well for people right now.
mm,
It is, like you said, picking something, sticking with it, and laying that solid foundation down and being consistent, continuing to
yep.
show up and not being the person that gets discouraged and just falls off like right before
Yep.
that moment
Yep.
that it's going
Yep.
to start
Hmm.
to, pick up.
Yep.
And I think that word like perseverance or persistence. And I've
Hmm.
been talking about this inside of our collective membership. We talk a lot about persistence and perseverance this past couple months of just, and I've seen people just stick with it, stick with that
Hmm.
consistency. And I've seen them reap the benefits of that. So I feel like
Yeah.
that's like the unsexy strategies are like the ones that are like tried and true.
Hmm. Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
um, so I always love to ask entrepreneurs this, what is your favorite part about your website design business or just your business,
Ooh.
being an entrepreneur in general?
Ooh, that's a great question. Favorite part. Uh, I guess the freedom. Like
Yeah.
I have the ability to live wherever, be wherever, go
Mm,
wherever, work when I want, not work when I want. And that is just, I think the other thing is I get to work on stuff which I'm excited about. Like I'm I have a new idea and I get to create that thing and
mm.
then go, I don't know, it's just like the best thing ever to get paid for doing something where you're like, "Ooh, I'm having fun doing this." So yeah, I think personally like the freedom. Again, so I live abroad, so I we now actually moved from Germany to London, which is super fun. But I have the freedom to, Shay and I were talking before we started, I have 8 wedding international invites this year. So I've actually been moved to London, haven't really been there a heck of a lot lately, actually. So just the freedom to be able to like, I can go home whenever I wanted. And that was so key for me, especially having when I was living abroad in Germany. It was like I would I could do it. I could live in the country, but I was like, I need to be able to go home like whenever I want. That's really important to me. Also, say if my parents got sick or something, like I want to be able to be on the first flight home and like not have to like take vacation or something to do that. Um,
Yeah.
so the freedom personally, and then also I think the you get to build stuff which brings you joy and then shoots money out at the end. It's just like the most fantastic thing you could ask for.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing. I think freedom is one of the reasons I also pursued this lifestyle. And I love that. I also have lots of weddings this summer and
Yeah.
things. And it's like the seasons of weddings this summer.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much for sharing that freedom and joy. I think those two things are just so key to living a really full life. And that's what I love
Mm.
that as an entrepreneur and an online entrepreneur gives us those things.
Yep.
So, my
Yep.
final question to you before we wrap up is if anybody is currently sitting on the fence and contemplating taking the plunge into becoming a website designer, what would you say to them?
I would say you can absolutely do it, even if you have no background, no anything. Like our students, these are like a lot of them, it's like they're women who had like had jobs before and then they had a baby and then they're like, wow, my job is not going to work with this new child that's like sitting right beside me. I need something to do on the internet. Or it's a lot of people who are like, oh, I just finished my degree and actually I don't really want to go do what I studied. Or like I want to be able to have the freedom to travel and work when I want. And or I just really like making pretty things. Like that was I learned this about myself also, like when we bought a house and I started designing stuff in the house. It's like I just like making pretty things. Like if any of those things sound like you, I just want to say like you're qualified to do this. Like you don't go get a computer science degree, one that's complicated, very expensive. But two, it's just like genuinely not necessary to do this job. If you're hoping to like, I want to make beautiful things on the internet for small businesses, don't go get a computer science degree. Just know that like, yes, you need to learn the skill, but you don't need to go, again, speaking to women specifically, because they're always like, have to have every qualification before I can even like consider whatever. Like that's, I hope that myself, and if you look on our website, we have so many past students who share like what they were doing before. They were like figure skaters and dancers and like, I don't know, and a ton of different accountants and stuff. And then they're like, you know what, I'd like to do website design. And as long as you have the desire to do it and the willingness to, yeah, you do need to learn a few things, that's fine. It's totally possible. And you do not need to know how to code. Let me just say that, like for the people in the back, because that's always something where it's like, oh, but if I want to be a website designer, I need to learn CSS and HTML and all these things now. And like genuinely website builders are getting better and better, that you don't need to know those things. And in fact, if you're going to build websites for clients, they're going to be hella confused how to update that website once you code the thing. So it's actually best, I find, to just use like the capabilities and the functionality of the website builder that you're using to create whatever the client wants. Because when it comes to them managing their own website later on, a lot of people don't like, oh, I have to like pay this person on retainer, or oh, I don't even know how to log into my website. I have to message my developer or something every time I want to update something. Like people are definitely going away from that, I think. And they want a website. They want you to build the thing, and then they want you to teach them like, okay, how do I do this? Like, how do I update? How do I add another service or add another class to my yoga studio? Like that's what they want. But they don't want to spend the actual time like creating the entire thing in the first place.
Wow. Yes. I love that. Thank you for sharing. And I think it's just completely spot on. So thank you so much for being here, Paige, with us today. This was such a wonderful and fun conversation. I feel like I got more insight into your journey and your story, and I feel like you dropped some really awesome nuggets for those who are interested in becoming a website designer or scaling their website design business. So where can people find you? Where can they learn more about you and connect with you?
Yes, you can find me at paigebrunton.com. That is the hub of all the things in my business. We have literally hundreds upon hundreds and hundreds of blog posts on everything from like building your web design business, doing things with Squarespace. That is the main spot. I am not a social media person, so I'm not on Instagram, but you can also find us at our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Paige Brunton. But yeah, that is the other place where I've been sharing a lot of content and a little bit of behind the scenes of business lately too. So I'm really enjoying that. So that is the best place to keep up with me.
I love that. Everyone likes a good behind the scenes. So thank you for sharing. And thank you for being here today. This was so much fun. Thank you for chatting with us.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Amazing. And thank you for everybody who's listening to this episode. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the next one.
The Freedom Filled Life podcast is brought to you by the Bucket List Bombshells. It's hosted by me, Cassie Torresillas, and my co-host, Shay Brown. If you loved today's episode, we'd be so grateful if you left us a review. Reviews help us spread the word about the Freedom Filled Life podcast, and they're a key part of sharing this show with other women who believe they're made for more. Until next week, keep on pursuing your own freedom-filled life.